TR Drake 63 here today, and I'm going to be doing a video today, something I've been wanting to do for a while, and that is a shoot-off between several different 357 Magnum revolvers. Specifically, I'm going to be shooting a Smith & Wesson 586, and this is a new model I purchased this year. It was made this year, and this has been reviewed. You can check out the details on that. But it's a brand new firearm that is limited use. In addition to that, I'm going to shoot an older Colt Trooper Mark III. This is a firearm that was produced in 1975, so it's got a few years on it. It's a 6-inch barrel, so not quite apples to apples with the Smith & Wesson, but I've recently picked up a Smith & Wesson Model 28-2. And this particular firearm also has a 4-inch barrel, and it's got the heavy end frame, so kind of going to be a good comparison against the modern day Smith. And all I'm going to do is shoot these three firearms. I'm going to shoot one cylinder each in single action. I'm going to shoot one cylinder each in double action. We're going to set the target range at 10 yards or 30 feet. I'm not going to do do-overs, anything like that. If there's a flyer, I'll show it to you. And I want you to keep in mind that all I'm showing you is how I shoot these guns. May not necessarily be how you shoot these guns. So keep that in mind. This is what works for me. Now, before we get too far into this, I'm sure somebody's going to say, where the heck's the Ruger? Why aren't you shooting a GP100 if you really want to compare things? I've shot GP100s. I've come close to buying Ruger revolvers. And I have owned Ruger cowboy action type like Vaquero and so forth, as well as Ruger's, it's like a Super Blackhawk and 44, things like that. But in terms of service type revolvers, carry type revolvers, I haven't. It's no knock against Ruger. My personal opinion, I personally like the ergonomics of a Smith & Wesson. Some of these older Colts, Dan Wesson that I've owned in the past, I prefer them, and they fit my hand better. I think they have better triggers, and I shoot them better than the Rugers. I have nothing bad to say about Rugers. They're very popular firearms. If I have a criticism of them, it's this. They're so overbuilt, so stoutly built to handle the most powerful loads you can get, that I think they sacrifice some ergonomics and shootability, and that's just my opinion. And guys that are more experienced shooters and better shooters than me are going to disagree with that statement. This is a personal preference thing. So just like I know I like Ford trucks better than Chevys, and haven't driven many of both, I get to make that statement without being a fanboy of anything. I just know what I like. And it's the same way with semi-auto pistols. I prefer the Glock 19 to any other semi-auto loader that's out there. Somebody else is going to say I hate the Glock 19, so keep that in mind. But today we're doing a shoot-off. That's the purpose of this exercise, and I hope you enjoy it. We'll discuss the results, and I'll also spend a little bit of time talking about shooting the Model 28-2, the Highway Patrolman from Smith & Wesson, as it is my newest acquisition, and I'm looking forward to it. Stay tuned. Played a little bit of musical grips with the 28-2, started out with some replacement woods, and here's those Pakmars that actually work out really good. Starting off right now in single action at 10 yards with the 28-2. Very reminiscent of what I have with the 586, very easy single action shooting. And really the only issue I'm having with the firearm at all is sight picture. It's black on black on black, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But gun functions fine, and very little felt recoil, obviously, with that big heavy end frame. That's going to help a lot. Next we switch to that Colt Trooper Mark III. The gun is just absolutely fun to shoot. That trigger is broke in like nobody's business. And then we switch to the Smith 586. Need to break that trigger in a little bit, but it shoots very well. And again, with that inlay on the front sight, very easy to acquire a sight picture. So that worked out well. Here's those first shots with the 28-2, and I'm high. I'm having a hard time acquiring the target, and we'll talk about that again, like I said, more later. We'll go over the Colt and getting some better results. I'm capable of better. Last shot, that 586. So-so, 30 feet, 10 yards. Now, since we already had that 586 out, we're just going to go ahead and start with that again. And this is our double action at 30 feet. Pretty deliberate, actually. All of these double actions shoot about the same, so it's a matter of just doing it the right way and having good trigger control. Here we're with the Colt again, and a little bit more broken in double action than the other two, but not significantly more. It's a pretty heavy pull at the start. Not going to bore you with every single shot out of each of these now in the second go around with the double action. I think you get the point. These guns work fine. Now we're moving on to the 28-2 in double action, and again, it's just a matter of lining things up and trying to find a small black target with a black front sight and black rear sights. Obviously, needless to say, we're going to be putting some paint on the front sight of this so that we're able to get better sight acquisition. FYI, my eyes turn 55 next week along with the rest of me. And there you can see the results. First, the 586, that's the Colt right there. And lastly, again, at 30 feet or 10 yards, we're looking at what we did with the 28-2, and we're shooting high. And the gun's not shooting high, I'm shooting high. It's not aimed high, I'm just shooting high because I'm having a hard time acquiring that sight picture. Here's the American Eagle. We're using the 158 grain jacketed soft point, and what we have here is again kind of illustrating what I'm up against with that front sight being black against a black target. So they've been done better with using a lighter colored target, but that's what we're dealing with there with the Colt. A lot easier to acquire. And now we're looking at 21 feet or 7 yards, and this is with the 28-2, and this is just me slowing things down. I've got about 100 rounds down the pipe with it at this point, and we're starting to get some better results, and the groupings are better. But I'm definitely going to need to do some things to highlight that front sight so I can do that consistently and don't have to take as much time. But I found out what I needed to find out, and that's the gun shoots perfectly straight. It does fine. And it's no more or no less accurate of a firearm than the other two. It's more of a matter of what am I able to do with that, with the sight picture that I have. Okay, so we had an opportunity to shoot these three fine 357 specimens today. And this was the newest one. As you can see, put on some grips that are actually not near as glamorous and attractive as these presentation grips, I'll call them, that the firearm came with the medallion and all that. But I got these used. We'll check the brand name here and see if it shows up. But they're generic. They don't have a cool medallion on them like these Colt grips or the Smith & Wesson 586. But what they do is fit my hand really well. And so I like them. A little bit of a gap here. I don't know if you can see it right there. And I don't know if I'm going to do sanding and stuff to try to fix it. It actually looks like it's actually just warped a little bit, so I could sand it and make it worse. Did not affect shooting, wasn't a problem. I don't think it's going to break or anything, so probably just leave it alone. But one thing I did do for the low price of $14.95 is got a used set of these guys these Packmars, and I did make sure that these fit, and they do fit well. If I think I'm going to find myself in a wet climate or something like that, I might switch out to those, and of course we'll keep those. Presentation, well, I call them presentation grips. Actually, what they are is just big old honking Target grips, and they end up being too big. So pretty as they may be, they don't do the trick for me. They're also quite a bit thicker than what I found with these new Smith grips. I like the way this tapers a lot better. Just a couple thoughts. You know, if you're going to have an inlay on your front sight, or if you're going to have a painted front sight, that's going to be a lot easier to see against a black target with an unpainted back sight as well. I mean, it's just a night and day difference in terms of what I was able to see at the range here. It's, even though that paint on this one is old, somebody came and did that kind of paint job. I'm going to be doing it to the 28 too, and then of course this is what the factory job looks like, but it's no comparison. So when you have that kind of scenario, you're just not going to shoot as well if you can't see as well. And you add to that the fact that I have nearsightedness, which means that I wear glasses to see far away. I put my glasses on and the target is in focus, but the sights, especially the front sight, is a little blurry. Or if I take the glasses out, the sights line up well, but the target ends up being blurry. So, you know, you kind of take your pick with that. I turn 55 next week, and that's part of the territory we're going into. But we're definitely going to paint this front sight and do something on this rear sight, because that was really the only difference in the way this firearm shot versus these two, was the sight picture I was able to get on the target. Overall, though, since this is the newest firearm, we were talking about this one a little bit more. I put about 100 rounds downrange with this today, and found the trigger, the brake on the trigger, single action, double action, all of that stuff worked very, very similar to these other two firearms, almost identical to this brand new Smith. And in terms of this Colt has seen more action than either of these firearms, I think, by a long shot. And as such, it's just got such a smooth and broken end trigger. So, you know, there is that. This is one sweet firearm. I'm thinking about maybe investing a little bit in it. It's got a little bit of end shake on the cylinder back and forth, and I'm thinking about having a gunsmith put in a bushing spacer to assist with that. It's not a lot, but it's something that I think if I shoot this a lot, it's going to increase. But this is such a nice gun, no question about it. And so is this. This thing is sturdy as the day is long, along with the 586 for a 357. A very stout, will handle any load type of revolver. Very nice trigger, as accurate as I can be, and as I said, also a function of the sight picture. But these are some beauties. I mentioned I picked up a set of used Packmars too for 14 bucks, and these ain't bad. Fit perfect, feel good in hand, without a doubt. I wouldn't think twice about leaving these on there. Very nice. I think if I knew for example, if I was going to carry this, didn't want to ding up the wood grips, stuff like that, wouldn't hesitate. Not a bad look. I'm not a big fan of of the Pachmars with their medallion on them. If I'm going to have a medallion, it's going to be from the gun manufacturer, not the grip manufacturer. But glad to pick these up without the medallion. Heck, I didn't even know that the Pachmar made them without the medallion, but these are obviously older, but nice, slim profile, which is my preference. And able to reach them without much effort. So good find all the way around. Firearm, used grips, without a doubt. Okay, well, as you can see behind me, I'm all about being on target whenever I can. And in terms of talking about this particular firearm, this new to me 28-2, I think this particular firearm is every bit as accurate as I'm able to be. Me personally, though, I'm always going to shoot a longer sight radius. I'm always going to shoot that better. I believe all things equal, I'm going to shoot a 6-inch barrel better than I'm going to shoot a 4-inch barrel. I think all things being equal, I'm going to shoot sights that are very highlighted and visible to me better than sights that aren't. So these are the kinds of things that I have to put into play. And as I said earlier in this video, I'm comparing 3 firearms in 357 that are, if not vintage, in the case of these two guys, they're vintage designs and follow a vintage format, as in the case of this guy right here. So 3 vintage firearms that I'm firing in the same caliber, and it's how I shoot them. And I think somebody with a different set of eyes, somebody with a different set of skills might come out and say, hey, you know what, the firearm they shoot best is the 28-2. Somebody else might come along and say, hey, guess what, I shoot this the best in 357 Magnum, a 2-inch snub nose. So it really comes down to the individual. But I'm very impressed with these 3 firearms. 2 of them you can't even get anymore. I appreciate you watching my channel as always. I encourage you to support the NRA. This is DR Drake 63 saying thanks for watching and have a great day.